So hello, my name's Rob, this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and today I'm going to show you how to make these really cool Blood Bowl bases, fantasy sport mini bases. I guess some steps you could use for any sports miniature game to get those white lines and that kind of grassy pitch look. They're really easy to do, they're quite fun to do actually. I haven't made too many of these, so this was a lot of fun doing these. And you're not going to need many bits. I will link everything in the description below, and yeah, let's put some bases together. So the first thing you need to do, or what I like to do, is I like to paint the bottom of my base brown, because the texture paste that I'm going to use crackles. I don't want to see any black, so I've gone for brown. Here I'm using Thondia Brown. After a couple of coats, you can see that it's got a nice finish to it. It's nice and solid, that's what we want. Next I'm going to use two technical paints from Citadel. This is Agrellan Earth and Agrellan Badlands. One cracks, one dries, very lumpy. And all I'm going to do, in no particular reason or thinking about it, I'm just going to cover each bit and give it a blast with a hairdryer to get it to dry nice and quickly for me. So we've got some lumpy bits, we've got some cracked bits, and that's what we want. Now, PVA here, this cost me £5, it's half a litre. I got this from a local discount store. I've had this forever, and I use PVA for a lot of my builds. It is really, really good stuff. And here I'm going to use some battlefield grass from the Army Painter. I've never used this before. I actually inherited this tub from a pal, and I've never used it, but it's got a lovely bright green, you know, high fantasy colour to it, and I really, really like that. So I think I'm gonna give this a whirl today. So using the old trusty Pringles lid, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put just a little bit of PVA on here. You don't need much. You don't really need to water it down either. I do always take the effort to make sure that the nozzle's nice and clear. If you want to go a little bit fancier, there is a better product than this. I'm not going to use it this time, but this is actually, it's Geek Gaming now. It just shows how long I've been a fan of Geek Gaming. This is the Luxe APS fast drying Scenic glue, and I've had this tub for ages. It's really, really good stuff. So if you can't find PVA or you want to treat yourself, do check out the Geek Gaming stuff. I'll put that in a link below as well. And all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to dab in random spots, because I don't believe, I believe this is for a halfling team. The grass is kept too well. I don't know, with halflings, maybe they've got a bit more time on their hands than some of the carefree teams that are out there. But I'm just really dabbing it in little clusters, leaving little gaps in between it. That's kind of what I want, just to kind of sell the fact that it is a well-used, well-worn pitch and does see some action. Don't worry about putting some bits on too thick, just make sure you've got a good bit of PVA on your base. Then all I do is I use the lid as a little tray, savvy, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to get chunk of this and I'm just going to sprinkle it all over. You can sprinkle this, you can get a good pinch of it, you can dab with your hand on the grass. I'm not sure whether this is static grass or not. It did stand up quite well without little effort. If you do buy static grass and you don't have a static grass applicator, a good tip is turn it upside down, tap it a few times. I always tap it twice as a rule. And if you don't have an applicator, get a balloon, rub it against your head, and then hold it about 2 inches above the grass, and it will force all the static fibres upwards, and it will make everything stand on end. So there's a cheap, quick way of getting static grass to stand up without a static grass applicator. So I've given it a few taps, and as you can see, everything's standing up. Don't be afraid to tap it a few more times and then put some more grass on. I was quite happy with how this looked. Because the PVA is white, it looks maybe not as dense as what you think. Wait for the PVA to dry, you can always add more afterwards, but it will dry quite green, as you can tell. There it is, it's all nice and dry. All the fibres are standing up, which is what we want for a pitch. We don't want flat grass. And just to spice it up now, what I'm going to do, these are Mordheim tufts, I believe, from Games Workshop, just for a bit of colour variation. I'm just going to use a little bit of cheap super glue. This is a super glue gel. I always struggle with the nozzles with these, and all I do is put a little bit of super glue just on the back, and I just push it into place somewhere where the grass isn't as thick, some of those little gaps that we left with the PVA. I do apologise right now if you can hear any weird rumblings. It's because I'm actually having to do this with a cat on my lap, so apologies for any. I'm not purring, that's not me. It's one of the I guess you could say cat or rabbits. And that's what we're left with. Now, to do the white lines, obviously you don't want to mask and tape these. You'll pull the fibres out, you know, no matter how much. So the best way I thought of doing this was getting a cocktail stick, getting some really cheap white paint. You don't need a lot, just like that. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to run my cocktail stick through the paint just to get a good amount on there, and then using a brush I'm just going to spread it along the cocktail skewer. I don't need a very thick line for this. All I need is a faint line that I can see that is straight, and all I do is I just take a bit of time to make sure. You do have to be fairly quick with this stage because it does tend to dry quite quickly. But you could use, I suppose, a paper clip straightened out, or maybe a piece of string if you hold it tight enough. I'm just making sure I've got a nice amount on here, and that it's wet more than anything, because we want it to imprint. And I want my line about here. So all I do is I push my cocktail stick into it with the paint facing down. I rub it back and forth, roll it back and forth until we get just a faint white line. So that's good enough. Then all you really need to do is go back to your brush. I'm using the same cheap acrylic craft paint here. I think this was from the Works, it cost about £2. I add a little bit of water to my brush, and all I do is following that line in a kind of short stabby motion. We don't want the line to be solid, we want it to look like it's laying on top of the grass as opposed to being painted through it. And that's it. That's all there is to it. These are really easy to do. I would suggest doing these in batches. I actually thought this was quite a lot of fun. I don't get to do sports miniatures and things like that often, and I'm doing a Blood Bowl treatment for my pal Josh, and yeah, I thought this was worth showing. So if you like this, do consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification. There'll be more tutorials and shorts and things like this coming soon. But that's it. Thanks for watching and take care. See you next time.